Joining us now is Gaurav Sawant live from Tianjin in China. Gaurav, right now on our screens we are showing the picture from the reception where the Chinese president and his wife are standing in the center and are flanked by all the leaders who are attending this SCO summit and the reception hosted by them. And there we see the Prime Minister also standing there. Explain to us the importance of this picture.
So these are 20 plus leaders, 10 members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And apart from the members, you have those who've specially been invited for this, including, Prime Ministers of Nepal and the President of Maldives. You also have countries like Turkey that have been invited. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has been invited, and there are several others. So it's an attempt to show the power of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Russian President Vladimir Putin, Chinese President Xi Jinping, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, very, very powerful world leaders on one stage. Erdogan of Turkey. And then in the second row, you notice, there are the leaders who've been invited. Of course, there's also UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in these pictures, along with other leaders. What is the indication? The indication, as the Chinese side are keen to explain, that one, they want the global south or the developing countries, and especially this grouping, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, to have a bigger role, a bigger say in management of world affairs. That's something they're very keen on. Two, it's to see how this grouping can work together in various aspects and fields, and especially in the economy, in connectivity, in trade. All of that, when they work together, it helps all of them. However, differences are also stark, especially on the issue of the reason for the founding of this organization. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or SCO, was established to combat terrorism and extremism in all its forms and manifestations. But China introduced a member that is a globally recognized state sponsor of radical Islamist terror, that is Pakistan. A country which has been spreading terror not just in India but also in Afghanistan, and there are apprehensions even in China that you could have these radical Islamist elements who could create trouble in East Turkestan. And you have a movement called East Turkestan Islamic Movement that China is very apprehensive about in the Xinjiang region. So there are these various issues that seem to bog this organization down. And that is why many in the West say that it's an important grouping. It's a grouping that China wants to dominate, but Russia remains a very dominant power here. President Putin remains very strong, despite many saying that after the Russia-Ukraine war, he would be weakened. But if you see the way the American president dealt with him or gave him the red carpet treatment in Alaska, clearly, President Putin's strength is there for all to see. India is emerging as the world's fastest growing large economy. So India's strength is something that the entire world sees. So much so that looking at India's rise, you have countries like the United States of America that we consider a comprehensive strategic partner, and they have called the Ukraine war as Modi's war. I mean, not Putin's war, not Russia's war, but they call it Modi's war. And why? Because they want India to play a significantly different role from what India is playing. It just goes on to indicate how strong India is as a world entity, no longer playing second fiddle to any nation or any grouping, standing tall. And we've seen that, standing tall vis-a-vis China versus China in Galwan, and ever since, against a state sponsor of radical Islamist terror, Pakistan, during Operation Sindoor. And incidentally, Shahbaz Sharif is also seen in these images, I think 2 places away from Prime Minister Narendra Modi in this grouping. So it just goes on to show how different countries deal with India, and India stands tall, independent, making sure that our voice is heard across the world.
Absolutely.